Have some of the most loyal fans with you around the world. There are Filipino flags everywhere. Just what is it like to play in this atmosphere? The eruption at the end when you won as well.
It's absolutely incredible. Maraming salamat mga kababayan. Maraming salamat. I also want.
There are moments in sports that don't just change a player's career. They change an entire nation's heartbeat. The kind of moment that begins in complete silence and ends with millions of people believing anything is possible. For Alex Eala, that moment wasn't a championship point or a trophy ceremony. It started with one simple ranking update that flashed across her phone. A number, just one number. But within minutes, tennis fans around the world realized they weren't looking at another rising prospect anymore. They were witnessing history. For the first time ever, a Filipino player had reached a milestone no one thought would happen this quickly, and the reaction exploded far beyond the tennis world. Social media erupted. Group chats across the Philippines and overseas lit up. Flights were suddenly being booked. Wimbledon organizers quietly started paying attention, because this wasn't just about a young player winning matches anymore. Something much bigger was happening. A movement was forming, and almost nobody inside professional tennis had seen it coming. But what makes the story even more unbelievable is that it actually started months earlier with what looked like an ordinary first-round match on a small court. That single decision would trigger scenes tournament officials would never forget, and what happened next changed Alex Eala's career forever. Months before Wimbledon, the warning signs were already there, but almost nobody inside tennis understood what they meant. At the Australian Open, Alex Eala was scheduled on one of the tournament's smallest outside courts, a decision that looked perfectly normal on paper. She wasn't a top seed, and few expected anything unusual. Then the crowds arrived. Hours before the match even began, thousands of fans packed the area surrounding the court. Security struggled to control the growing lines as people waited in the scorching heat just for the chance to see her play. Many never made it inside, yet they refused to leave. Instead, they stood outside the fences, cheering after every point as if they were sitting courtside. The atmosphere became so electric that officials quickly realized they had underestimated something no ranking could measure: Alex Eala's incredible connection with her fans. It wasn't built by flashy marketing or viral social media campaigns. It came from millions of Filipinos around the world who saw one of their own breaking barriers on the biggest stages in tennis. Suddenly, tournament organizers weren't just planning matches anymore. They were planning for crowds unlike anything they had expected. And that was only the beginning, because over the next few months, the phenomenon became impossible for the tennis world to ignore. Then came the performances that erased every remaining doubt. Alex Eala didn't climb the rankings because of lucky draws or favorable matchups. She earned every step by defeating some of the toughest opponents in women's tennis. At the Berlin Open, she produced the biggest week of her career, taking down higher-ranked stars in back-to-back matches and proving she could compete with the very best on grass. Suddenly, analysts who had once called her a promising prospect were using a different word: contender. Every victory pushed her ranking higher, but it also created a level of excitement that stretched far beyond the tennis community. Fans stayed awake through the night just to watch her matches. Watch parties appeared in cities across the Philippines and among Filipino communities overseas. Every point felt like it belonged to millions of people, not just one player. Then came the moment that changed history. After the latest rankings were released and a last-minute withdrawal reshuffled the field, Alex officially moved into the seeded positions for Wimbledon. It wasn't just another ranking milestone. It meant she had become the first Filipino player in the Open era to enter a Grand Slam as a seeded competitor. The achievement sent shockwaves across social media, while messages of celebration poured in from fans, former players, and sports personalities around the world. But the biggest surprise wasn't the ranking itself. It was what people were willing to do after hearing the news. The moment Alex Eala became a Wimbledon seed, something extraordinary happened. It wasn't just excitement online. It turned into real-world action. Fans across the globe immediately began changing travel plans, requesting time off work, and booking flights to London. For many, this wasn't a luxury vacation. It meant months of saving, rearranging family schedules, and making sacrifices simply to witness a piece of history. Filipino nurses finishing overnight shifts, students studying abroad, engineers, caregivers, and overseas workers all shared one goal: to be there if Alex made a deep Wimbledon run. That level of loyalty is almost unheard of for a player who was only beginning to establish herself among the sport's elite. Tournament officials couldn't ignore it anymore. After what happened in Melbourne, they knew placing Alex on a small outside court could create another logistical nightmare. Reports and reactions from across the tennis world made it clear that her matches were becoming must-watch events regardless of who stood on the other side of the net. What began as support for a rising player had transformed into one of the most passionate fan movements in modern tennis. And as the crowds continued to grow, even some of the biggest names in the sport started admitting something few expected to hear. Alex Eala might already be one of the biggest attractions in women's tennis. By the time Wimbledon arrived, Alex Eala's rise was no longer just a feel-good story. It had become impossible for the biggest names in tennis to ignore. During interviews, top players openly admitted what fans had already been saying for months. They recognized that wherever Alex played, the atmosphere changed. The crowds were louder, the energy was different, and the attention surrounding her felt unlike anything expected from a player still climbing the rankings. Even discussions among former professionals and tennis analysts began focusing on one surprising question: was Alex already one of the biggest draws in women's tennis? The conversation wasn't only about her results. It was about her incredible ability to unite millions of fans across the world. Online numbers added even more fuel to the discussion, with interviews and press conferences attracting astonishing viewership that rivaled, and in some cases surpassed, many of the sport's biggest stars. For tennis executives, it was a wake-up call. The traditional way of measuring popularity suddenly didn't explain what was happening anymore. Alex wasn't becoming famous because of marketing campaigns or carefully planned publicity. She was earning something far more powerful: genuine belief. And that belief was growing stronger with every match. But as incredible as the crowds and statistics were, the most remarkable part of this story had nothing to do with numbers. It was the quiet mindset of Alex Eala herself that made millions admire her even more. What makes Alex Eala different isn't just her powerful ground strokes or her rapid rise through the rankings. It's the way she carries every victory with humility. Despite the growing headlines, record-breaking crowds, and worldwide attention, she continues to speak like someone who believes the work is far from finished. She has repeatedly credited her family, coaches, and the unwavering support of Filipino fans instead of putting the spotlight on herself. That quiet confidence has become one of the biggest reasons people connect with her. Fans don't see someone chasing fame, they see a young athlete chasing excellence, and that authenticity is impossible to fake. Every time she steps onto the court, millions of people feel as if they're standing beside her, celebrating every winner and suffering through every difficult point. It's a connection that goes beyond tennis. For many Filipinos around the world, Alex represents years of sacrifice, resilience, and the belief that someone from their community can stand among the sport's elite. And with every tournament, that belief only grows stronger. But the biggest chapter of this incredible journey is still being written, because Wimbledon could be the tournament that transforms Alex Eala from a rising star into one of the defining names in world tennis. Whether Alex Eala lifts the Wimbledon trophy this year or not, one thing has already become impossible to deny: she has changed tennis history forever. Long before the final point is played, she has accomplished something no Filipino player had ever achieved in the Open era, inspiring millions who now believe that the sport's biggest stages truly belong to them too. What began as one teenager chasing a dream has grown into a global movement fueled by passion, sacrifice, and unwavering belief. Every packed court, every flag waving in the stands, every fan staying awake through the night to watch her compete is proof that this journey has become far bigger than rankings or trophies. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of all. The greatest stories in sports are rarely written only by the athlete. They're written by the people who refuse to stop believing. Alex Eala gave those people a reason to dream, and they responded by turning every tournament into what feels like a home match. Now the entire tennis world is watching to see what comes next. Will this be the tournament where she completes the fairy tale and captures her first Grand Slam? Or is this simply the opening chapter of an even greater legacy? One thing is certain: the next time Alex Eala walks onto a tennis court, millions won't just be watching, they'll be believing. And judging by everything we've seen so far, this incredible story is only getting started.